In my restless dreams, I see her face. Monika. You promised you would make matchups against her, but you never did. But I'm not mad. I want breakfast. I got a letter. The name on the envelope said S. And then in parentheses, the S stands for Sayori. But that's impossible. Christmas decorations can't write letters. Could she really be out there, waiting for me to make another video? Alrighty, time to get to work. Running behind as usual, Daniel. Alright, let's see what we got to work with. Ah! Hi, Monika. I know it's been a while. It's just that this is primarily a versus debating and Superman fan channel. I just don't put a lot of my horror content here. I know, it's just that you don't have a lot of good matchups. Oh? You know about the list? But what if people aren't interested? You know what? You're right. It's just a fun little detour. I can always put Superman and horror content on this channel if I so choose. Plus, it's been a while since I've done a versus matchup. And I just can't say no to that face. Hi everybody, Starfish Sicko aka Daniel here. Now my original plan for Halloween was to talk about Superman and vampires, and if there's still some interest in a video like that, I may put one up in the future. But I've been persuaded to go a different route. Now if you've read my channel description or followed me on social media by chance, you happen to know that on top of being a huge Superman fanatic, I'm also an aspiring horror writer. And I have a particular fondness for meta horror. To a certain extent. And while I was late to joining this particular fandom, I did really enjoy my time in Doki Doki Literature Club. It had everything. Dating sim elements designed to make you feel like a piece of crap. Engaging characters with cute designs. A hard left turn that Let's Players pretended they didn't know about so they could overreact to it. And more than anything, it had a villain that stuck with me. Now, I'm used to my fan groups colliding in on each other. Heck, the internet seems all but designed to have all of these different fandoms and interests collapse in onto each other. So I wasn't really all that surprised when I started seeing Monika here being brought up into death battle and versus matchup discussions. What did sort of shock me though was the sort of list I started to see her creep in on. Time and time again, I started to notice that Monika here was near the top, if not the #1 pick for combatants that people did not want. And you know, part of me really does understand that. After all, she's only appeared in a single game, so she doesn't have a lot to pull from, and the breadth of her abilities in said game are vague at best. Not that I've ever seen that stop people from overanalyzing feats before. And last chance for spoilers here, she's a fictional character even within her own universe. And for some people, that limits who they want to put her against. Not that stuff like that isn't resolved with verse equalization anyway. Still, there are those that think she either snaps her fingers and wins, or she gets pulverized with very little middle ground. But am I gonna let little things like that stop me? Nah. Not now, not during spooky season. So I've searched the deepest bowels of my horror knowledge, and I think I've come up with 3 suitable opponents for our girl Monika here. Now, there is a little disclaimer I'd like to put in here. While I love discussing this stuff ad nauseum, I do think some in the Versus community still take this stuff a little too seriously, which is part of the reason why I chose this character. Sometimes a discussion is a little bit more of a hypothetical. It might involve more story than hard numbers, and every once in a while, I think we should get back into that. More philosophy, less math. And if you have a hard time thinking of it that way, then why don't you just imagine this as a crossover instead of a straight up versus matchup? But if you're willing to have some fun with me, then let's step into the club. While compiling my list of opponents for Monika, I went by a few rules or guidelines. The first being that I had to be familiar with the characters enough to where I could talk about them with people if questions came up. That means no characters like Sonic.exe or Flowery from Undertale, because I'm not familiar with either of those characters, even though some people kind of seem to like them as opponents for. The second rule I went by was I wanted there to be some sort of thematic connection beyond just power sets. I didn't want it to just be who can delete things better. Sorry, MCU Thanos. And last but not least, these had to be in some way horror characters. That's because, well, it's a Halloween video. What else do you want me to say? Sure, I could have just made a tier list for Monika. That's a perfectly valid thing for people to do if that's what they enjoy. But I wanted to keep it in the realm of horror franchises that I'm more familiar with. That way my takes and arguments are a little bit more genuine. And at the end of the day, I'm actually pretty happy with the characters I came up with. And with one final call for spoilers, let's begin our countdown. Hey, what's going on here? Hey, whoa, hey, stop it. Countdown to the school festival and the dread that follows. Number 1, Sadako Yamamura from Ring. Now, I love Ddlc, but I'm in love with the Ring franchise. In fact, if you wanted to know who my all-time favorite horror icon is, that would be Sadako Yamamura. First appearing, sort of, in Koji Suzuki's titular novel Ring, my girl Sadako would soon spread to encompass a number of media, ranging from film to a TV show to video games. It was hard not to be infected in some way. Even on the surface here, there are some interesting connections between the two, albeit mirrored ones. Sadako is represented by old technology via VHS tapes and uses them to spread in a mimetic fashion to curse or infect one person to the next, while Monika is more of a modern PC horror take. But if you dive deep into the lore here, you find 2 characters that are willing to go to extreme lengths to spread their influence and get what they want. And across her media appearances, Sadako has collected a host of powers, including thought photography, virus creation, cursing, precognition, telepathy, telekinesis, cloning, and possibly even more. Now you might have noticed that I keep using the word infected, and that's because in the first 2 Ring novels, it's revealed that Sadako spreads her influence using the Ring virus. It's not actually a curse in the novels. It is a combination of the smallpox virus and her psychic energy that she has created using thought photography and implanted onto a tape, which somehow gets into our DNA whenever we watch the said cursed videotape. And speaking of the novels, if you keep reading them, they start to get a little weird. In Loop, it is revealed that the first 2 novels actually took place inside of a Matrix-like virtual reality known as, well, Loop. Sadako was something akin to a cancerous computer virus that infected everything until there was nothing left except her. Just Sadako. The connections really do add up, don't they? To add to this, Sadako does start to seep outside of the program itself, spreading the virus into the real world. And in Doki Doki Literature Club, Monika is implied to have escaped from the metaverse, the program or game in which she exists, and is infecting somebody's mind, which is another strange sort of connection between the two series. That's right, Ring Terror's Realm, famous for this gripping sound effect, is a better representation of Koji Suzuki's novels than any of the movies. Go figure. So I pitched the battle like this: a composite Sadako with all of her feats across all of the franchises versus Monika. Could the Ring virus overcome the self-aware AI? In the end, only one program can be dominant. I'd actually give most categories that matter in a versus matchup to Sadako, especially if we composite her. But don't count Monika out just yet. After all, she can enter into files and alter programs, and she has the ability to mass delete programs. However, one does have to wonder, could the Ring virus infect Monika? And if you've read Birthday, you know just how horrific of an end that could be for a woman. That's one down and two to go. Let's see. Oh God, not again. Let's continue. Number 2, Ruvik from the Evil Within. Rupert Victorian, aka Ruvik, of Shinji Mikami's The Evil Within, has a surprising number of connections with our dear Monika. Ruvik, a genius sociopath with a taste for torture and a tragic past, designed his own artificial world using the collective power of human minds, STEM, only to be betrayed by the mysterious group Mobius and imprisoned inside his own creation as the Beacon prototype. And he wants out. Ddlc Plus introduced Metaverse Enterprise Solutions, a company whose purpose it is to study simulated reality, while also talking about the possibility that their own reality itself might be a simulation. This lines up perfectly well with the Evil Within's Mobius. 2 mysterious organizations, 2 virtual worlds, 2 combatants. The games also have 2 interesting connections that I would like to address really quick. The first being that the character's actions inside the virtual world cause that virtual reality to begin to glitch out. Second, both endings sort of imply that maybe they have escaped their virtual reality, with Doki Doki Literature Club Plus implying that Monika might be possessing one of the workers of the metaverse, and with The Evil Within implying that Ruvik may have escaped and possessed Leslie. And while we may never have an answer to that question, thanks for closing down Tango Gameworks, Microsoft. It really makes me happy and want to buy your games. I think it makes the games and the characters have enough of a connection to at least have an interesting discussion. The pitch. Monika is introduced into STEM with the sole purpose of deleting Ruvik or the program itself. Would she be able to do it, or would she be overwhelmed by the horrors that Ruvik creates? I also really sort of love the very visceral body horror that The Evil Within gives us versus the deceptively cute but hard left turning Doki Doki Literature Club. To me, that's just sort of funny. Much like the previous fight, this one would be kind of hard for me to call because Ruvik looks like he takes a lot of the categories. But Monika just has that mass deletion ability that a lot of people really harp on. Honestly, it's starting to remind me of Gold Experience Requiem in this video. But something that you might want to consider is, this guy here might be able to make Monika live through all the horrors that she put her friends through. And now for... Not again. God dang it. Get it out. Number 3. Number 3. Rika and Hanyu from Higurashi. If Doki Doki Literature Club wasn't at least partially inspired by Higurashi, I would be extremely surprised. I mean, just look at Dan Salvato's early designs for the girls and compare them to Ryakishi 07's early art for Higurashi. It bears a striking resemblance. And real quick here, I just want to appreciate that this guy who's created one of my favorite anime franchises will be writing the next mainline Silent Hill game. That's just sort of neat to me. But even if you consider that a coincidence, I'll tell you what isn't. The hyper-specific genre. That being a deceptively cute series that continuously escalates in violence while psychologically breaking its cast. And I'm going to show my hand a little bit here. It's one of my favorite subgenres. Don't look at me like that. And as if genre and character design wasn't enough, I'll tell you one more thing that both of these series has in common, and that's the time loop. Higurashi's various arcs take place across different timelines, and they often end very, very horribly for our characters. And each time we start right back at the beginning. It's a tool used to help build up mystery and tension, but it also plays on audience expectations, often giving us false leads and half-truths. It's later revealed that these time resets are very literal and not just a different way to tell the same story, and it's being done because of this girl. Rika Furude, please forgive that horrible Japanese pronunciation, who is also the living reincarnation/incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, the patron deity of Hinamizawa. But her friends call her Hanyu. Getting into all of this character's history is way beyond the scope of this video. But to simplify it, this is the god of the barely heard footsteps behind you, the eyes that are always on you. She continuously sends Rika back in time to try to avoid a tragic death, so that she and her friends can get the miracle and good end that they always deserved. Doki Doki Literature Club deals with its own sort of time loop, one caused by Monika as she desperately tries to gain our attention. Not the character, but the actual player. And Plus takes it a step further and implies that this has happened an untold number of times. Monika is almost the inverse of Rika and Hanyu. It's her meddling, after all, that leads to her friends' tragic ends. All because she attempted to alter reality for her happy ending. This pitch I find to be a little bit harder. It's a little more death battle and a little less crossover, and that's only because so many people, when they see Monika, go, well, she isn't real. Even when you try to incorporate verse equalization, some people just can't get over that hurdle that she's a digital character that I'm trying to make interact with physical characters. And even if people are willing to grant me that, then they're just like, well, isn't Monika just a normal schoolgirl that happens to have an overpowered ability? Well, yeah, but then what would you call Rika? The only real issue I have is, Hanyu sort of stomps. Like, it's not even close. Seriously, if you begin to dig into Ryakishi's other works and how they cross over with Higurashi, you're dealing with several outerversal characters that probably curb stomp some of your favorites. Seriously now, this character, even at a low ball, is probably going to march over your favorite verses. She's not going to really care about Monika's ability to delete people when she can reset entire timelines. Even so, if you'd like to approach this from like a more storytelling perspective, there have been those that have been able to impede Hanyu's abilities before, and I'd honestly just love to see these two staring each other down across shattered timelines. Well, Those are my Halloween matchups. What did you think of this list? Do you agree or disagree with any of these matchups? Do you have any characters that you would like to pit Monika against, or do you have any spooky season matchups that you like to talk about? Comment below, let me know. And while you're there, why don't you go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe. I try to interact with every comment on my videos. I really just enjoy talking about this nonsense. It's really one of the things that keeps me going. Now, if you're new here, I mostly do Superman power scaling, along with some comic book reviews and deep dives. Though, as you can tell with this video, I am willing to talk about anything that's interesting to me at any given moment. So, hopefully you've had fun with your time here. And if you really enjoy the spooky stuff, please consider following my podcast, The Horror of Babylon. There, my friends and I discuss horror novels. There will be a link in the description below. That's been Daniel with truth, justice, and all of that nonsense. Stay scary and happy Halloween, everybody.